to the runway or close to the flight path. And we have predictions that we should expect occasionally winds up to Beaufort 12, which is about 130 kilometers per hour in the core, and these tornadoes will hit the church tower and the roof construction.
Villagers may have reason to be concerned. For years they've tolerated another big plane in Airbus's fleet, the Beluga, a custom-built freighter named for the white whale it resembles. The Beluga, smaller than the A380, was custom-built in 1996 to carry pieces of Airbus planes to and from various factories. Village people and builders have already felt the shaking caused by the Beluga, which may get worse when the much larger A380 comes to town. Airbus contends that fears are overblown, but if the protesters win, Airbus may have no choice but to pull up stakes and build the freighter factory and runway somewhere else. Which group will come out on top, the local villagers or the corporate giant? The lawsuits are still working their way through the courts. Legal action by angry locals is one risk the company is vulnerable to. But just 57 kilometers away in the town of Stade, another big gamble is underway. The company is using a futuristic material to build the largest commercial aviation tail fin in the world. It's called carbon fiber reinforced plastic, and it's made out of the same stuff that gives diamonds their incredible strength. Carbon fiber is 6 times stiffer than steel and much lighter. It's the only option if builders are going to keep the weight of the plane below the target of 277 tons. Unlike forged metal, carbon-reinforced plastic parts are actually woven, like cloth. Fabricating machines spin out tail panels by combining super-strong carbon fibers with plastic resin to create almost any shape the designers can imagine. After baking, strengthening, painting and drying, technicians join the lightweight panels to the tail skeleton with the help of this computer-controlled riveting robot. Working around the clock for a week, the robot makes 10,000 critical connections with intolerances no human can match. The integrity of the tail fin is crucial to the safety of passengers. Airbus engineers know only too well what can happen if a tail structure fails. In 2001, American Airlines Flight 587 left JFK Airport in New York. Less than 3 minutes later, the Airbus A300 aircraft had crashed in Rockaway, a neighborhood in Queens, New York.
The beast went left side and they can slide all the way down.
It was the second deadliest crash in US history, and investigators made a disturbing discovery. It had been caused when the tail fin and rudder, made partly out of composite materials, sheared off as the plane accelerated. Investigators concluded that cockpit errors, not a failure of the carbon composite material, most likely caused the crash. And builders have applied the lessons of that catastrophe to the tail fin of the A380. But today, something's gone wrong on the factory floor. A lightning strike zapped the power supply, and now the precision riveting robot is dead in the water.
We had a storm, a lightning strike. The PC failed and the hard disk was completely gone.
Mother Nature has thrown a wrench into the works, causing a total crash of the system.
It is electricity. Sometimes it happens. Normally we are protected, but it can just happen.
Critical hours pass as Kai Baumgartner and his colleagues struggle to get the robot back online. If they can't fix the computer, they can't make the deadline set for finishing this tail fin. Kai and his team must find the problem, and quickly. By the end of the shift, the sound of riveting echoes through the factory once again. Kai is finally back at work, personally verifying that every one of the 10,000 connections is perfect. A tiny camera positioned on the end of the riveting machine allows Kai to carefully examine each rivet, making sure to catch any abnormalities in the process.
I make sure that the drill doesn't get stuck or any mistakes happen. I have my different systems here. It can happen that something is stuck or that an error occurs.
It's a repetitive process, but Kai must remain vigilant to safeguard the lives of future passengers. Around the world, manufacturers and suppliers are putting the finishing touches on the components of the A380. But putting all the pieces together will be a logistical nightmare. Airbus's existing transport system, the custom-built megafreighter called the Beluga, is too small to haul the A380 components to the assembly factory in Toulouse, France. So builders came up with a risky plan to haul millions of dollars of critical components by water and land. Airbus had a problem. They needed to move pieces for the largest passenger plane in the world from factories all over Europe to their final assembly plant in Toulouse, France. For smaller planes, they could use the Beluga, Airbus's distinctive custom-built transport plane. The Beluga's cargo hold measures 7 meters high, 7 meters wide, and 38 meters long. Big enough to swallow the fuselage, wings, and tail sections of Airbus passenger planes like the 150-seat A320. But when Airbus decided to build the massive A380, the sheer size of the parts overwhelmed even the Beluga. The Beluga is far too small to carry the A380's enormous triple-decker fuselage or its record-breaking wings. So to get their parts to the assembly plants, the company now had to move them by sea and over land, instead of a 2-hour ride in the belly of the Beluga. Parts for the A380 joined a days-long parade of specially outfitted ocean ships, river barges and trucks. Keeping this massive system on schedule is the job of Surface Transport Coordinator Philippe Nedelec, who has to keep it all moving fast.
I like to say that I am a kind of conductor. I have to impose the tempo to everybody.
Wings and fuselage arrive by sea in the port city of Pauillac in Bordeaux. From there, it's 96 kilometers by barge down the Garonne River. It's a tricky bit of navigation to clear the historic Pont de Pierre Bridge, a prized landmark built by Napoleon almost 200 years ago.
We have to cross a very old bridge. And at the beginning, the Bordeaux people were very afraid. What these Airbus people are going to do with our nice bridge.
To maneuver beneath the Pont de Pierre, Philippe and his team keep careful track of the tides and the weather. If they don't time their trip just right, if the water is too high or the currents too strong, they could collide with the bridge, destroying precious cargo and damaging a priceless piece of history as well. But waiting for the perfect moment isn't always an option.
Suppose we miss a call for weather condition or some other things, then the boat can miss a tide, so we can miss 6 hours, and this 6 hours you can miss 1 week because we cannot start the convoy, the road convoy every day. It's not so easy. We cannot start when you want.
Every pass under the bridge is a potential disaster. This time, they make it through, but just barely. Next, it's a handoff to a fleet of trucks and their escorts. Now it's a slow crawl, 16 kilometers per hour, for the last 250 kilometers of the journey.
You cannot leave these trucks alone, so you have some trucks for assistance. One convoy is 6 trucks, plus I would say 15 vans, plus some cars, plus motorbikes, almost 60 people moving from 10 at night to 5 to 6 in the morning after.
It's a bizarre display. Giant airplane parts inching along narrow French village roads, sometimes coming within just 50 centimeters of buildings.